get cozy. And my blanket onesie. Okay, I think it's recording. Yes. Okay, I think it's working. Okay, welcome back to my corner. I hope you had a good week. I had a good week. 2 weeks. Has it been 2 weeks? Yes, it's been 2 weeks. After Medusa, that episode 2 weeks ago, I took a break and went to visit my boyfriend in Arizona and had a mini vacation, which was nice. And then went back to work. Now I'm exhausted and want another vacation. So it's been a good week. How was your week? I'm glad it was good. Or not good. I hope it was mediocre at least. So today, I wanted to talk about emotional service animals. And before anybody scoffs or just like, whatever, they're just pets, just hear me out. Also, hi friends. Hi David. Okay, so emotional service animals, it's a relatively new concept, which I think is still really cool. I got something in my eye. Oh no. Also, both my cats are behind me. It's like they knew I was going to talk about them today. Sorry, I'm so scatterbrained. But my boyfriend, right before he started streaming, was like, so what made you pick this topic? And it was because Henley cuddled me this morning and was just super cute. And that was it. That was it. I wanted to talk about my cats and how important they are to me. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stream about my cats because that's what I do. Okay, so emotional service animals. So let's start by talking about service animals and what the difference is. So most people are very familiar with service animals. They usually wear the cute little vest. It says do not pet, and then I frown because I want to pet every animal I see in the world. But this is a very serious thing. So service animals, so I have never had a service animal myself. So I have 2 emotional support animals, but I don't have a service animal. So I don't have personal experience with service animals, but I know someone who has a service animal, and I've seen people interact with service animals, and then I did a little bit of research before so I would have a better understanding. I have a general idea of what service animals do, just no first-hand experience. So if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Again, I'm not a professional. This is just mostly my experience, what I've seen. That's it. I'm not a professional. Okay, so kinds of service animals. So based on my research, a lot of the different kinds of service animals include the ones we're most familiar with is probably the guide dogs for blind people. There are hearing dogs who learn specific sounds, such as fire alarms, and they alert their owners. There are medical response dogs who learn to sense hypoglycemia, which means low blood sugar, and alert their owners to eat a snack or something. I have no idea how the hell you train a dog to do this, but that's insane and amazing. And then there's mobility assistance dogs who help people in wheelchairs open doors. They just things like, or push elevator buttons, stuff like that. And then there's also dogs to serve people with autism, which I guess, and then there's what they consider a psychiatric service animal, which means they just go into a room and assess for threats. They were very vague on that description, and I'm not 100% sure how that works. It sounded to me almost like a bomb sniffing dog. I'm sure it's different, but that's what it made me think of. And then there's seizure response dogs, who can tell when their owners are about to have a seizure and alert them. I think what I read was they typically will put their nose into their owner's hands, and that's how they'll alert them, which I think is really cool. And there's also alert. I think they have technically there's guide ponies. That was a thing for a little bit. Hold on, I took notes. But I believe the dogs were legally recognized as service animals in 1988 or 1990. Again, very, very new. There are separate programs that will train the dogs, and the training typically takes about 1 or 2 years depending on the service. Because if it's something like training for hypoglycemia or seizures, you want to make sure they nail that shit. You know, you're not just going to send a dog that passes 90% of the time. You want to get a dog that's 100% accurate. So training can take up to 1 or 2 years, and there's separate programs with specific trainers for that. And then typically that program will pair the dog with an owner who will apply for a service dog, I believe is how that works. Just my general sense of how the program works is that they get paired together. I knew a girl in college who had a guide dog because she was mostly blind, and she had one dog, and then she lived in a dorm, and the environment just wasn't working out too well for him, and so he ended up going to a separate place, and then she ended up being paired with another dog, and she did that through a separate program. I'm not using her name because I haven't spoken to her in years, and I just vaguely remember her dealing with that process. And I know the bond between an owner and a service dog can be really, really tight, really special. I mean, they have to be. You're relying on this animal to essentially save your life. And I don't believe the people that receive the service animal train them, because most of them are incapable. I mean, if you're deaf, you can't train a dog to hear a sound. If you're blind, you can't train a dog to see, because you can't see, you can't hear, so you can't train a dog to do that. But I know that the programs will train the owners to interact appropriately with the dogs and like teach them the commands that they know. So there's programs like that, which are really cool. So lots of training, lots of studying. I'm imagining dogs studying now, and it's really cute. So service animals actually became a thing in like the 1920s. 1927, I think, was the date. My boyfriend, he was helping me research, so thanks, Matt. 1927 was the date that we found when it was recognized in the U.S. Every date I mention is going to be for the U.S. because that's where I live. And so that concept started pretty early on, but legally was recognized 1988, 1990. So again, very, very early, very, very new. And I think it's because psychology and mental health are concepts that are so new to us. I mean, they really aren't new, but they are new in the sense that we are talking about them, we're treating them appropriately, we're recognizing that they need appropriate treatment, and we're recognizing them as legitimate things instead of just you crazy going to the asylum and rot. So that's why I think it's new, and thank God that it's a thing now, because I can't imagine being in a world where I don't have one of my senses. Like, I'm blind, I'm deaf, and there's just no options for me, you know? So that's a little bit about service animals. I'm sure you've seen them in public. They can go where pets are not allowed. They are very well trained. Typically, you don't pet them. They aren't like jumping up on you like crazy. They are with their owners. They're specifically focused on their owners, watching for signs, and they're very in tune with their owners. So it's a very different relationship than just like you and your dog. It's a very different kind of relationship. So service animals, I feel like, is something that we're all pretty familiar with. So those are my notes on service animals. Yep, training takes about 1 to 2 years generally. So it's a little bit about service animals, and again, I don't have firsthand experience with this. So emotional support animals. This is the one that people are not very familiar with. And I don't blame you. A lot of people treat emotional service animals, I think people treat and talk about it the way people used to talk about mental health. And I mean, people still talk about mental health this way, but when people used to talk about depression and anxiety, it was, you're not really depressed, you're not really anxious, it's just an excuse to get out of XYZ. They didn't treat it like a real legitimate thing, versus like a broken ankle is something you physically can see. You see it's broken, you recognize it as legitimate. But anxiety doesn't always present itself as something that's physically broken. Like there's not always a physical manifestation of something that we recognize as legitimately broken or debilitating, which is why a lot of it isn't considered legitimate by most of the population. So again, that's why I'm doing this stream. We're talking about it, we're breaking the stigma, we're taking it face on, and we're calling society out for its bullshit. Because this is bullshit. People are killing themselves every day because we refuse to talk about it. Anyway, so we're talking about it. So I think that attitude, we've come a long way, and I'm very grateful for that. But we have to keep going, because if you just kind of stop now, I'm not satisfied with where we're at, personally. I think society has come a long way, but I think a lot of it is still very showy. I think a lot of it is very, look how great and woke and educated I am, but it's not legit change. And I have a huge problem with that. And I think with emotional service animals, we're still at the very beginning stages. A lot of people look at it as, well, we'll get to my personal experience with it, but so we'll talk about what an emotional service animal is. And this one I do have personal experience with because I've got two, and they're both They're hiding in my blankets, but they're behind me. But I also took notes on it because I wanted to make sure I didn't fuck it up. But emotional service animals were established around the same time as service animals, but kind of swept under the rug type of thing. I feel like it was one of those things that the government kind of like, we feel like we have to do this, but no one felt like they could utilize it, if that makes sense. It feels like something, to me, it feels like it's a government service that's provided, but you get shit on if you actually take advantage of it. That's how it feels to me. Like, yeah, it's there, but you can't utilize it without all these strings attached, which is bullshit. So, also, in 2011, random fun fact, I completely missed, service animal regulations changed so only dogs can be service animals. I think horses were also a thing before. And then it was unspecified. Anyway, back to emotional support animals. So the biggest difference between emotional support animals and service animals is that emotional support animals don't undergo any official training. That is probably the biggest difference. There's no official programs that I'm aware of that train animals to be emotional support animals. You get an animal and you can just register them as an emotional support animal. So I think because there's a lack of training, maybe people think, well, it's not legitimate, there's no training, you're just saying it, just to say it. And, I think it's important to recognize that there are shitty people that take advantage of that. Because there are advantages to having an emotional support animal. Like with my babies, there's a bunch of housing laws that were passed so that people with service animals and emotional support animals can live with their pets. So, for example, places without, with policies of no pets, stuff like that, people with service animals, emotional support animals, most of that can be waived because landlords cannot legally say you can't bring your service animal, emotional support animal, because that's considered discrimination, which there was a law, I wrote it down. Federal Fair Housing Amendments Act passed in 1988, so landlords can't discriminate against those with mental disabilities, so waiver of no pets is allowed, and pet fees are waived. I believe pet rent, I'm trying to remember if I paid pet rent. I don't think I paid, I think I had to pay pet rent, but only for one cat instead of two. They have very weird laws around it, and landlords are very tricky. And David, I will be talking about how to register. I will get there and answer that. But yeah, there's not a lot of information. Like, there's not a lot for me to say in regards to what an emotional support animal is, because it's different for everybody. For someone like me with depression and anxiety, like my cat Henley, she is incredibly sensitive, and like I didn't train her. She wasn't, like, I adopted her from a shelter. She wasn't trained by anybody, but I think the reason why animals, this is just, again, my opinion, my experience, I'm not a professional, at least in my experience, I think animals are just a lot more sensitive than we realize. And again, not all animals, but most animals, some animals are very in tune with, like, emotions and feelings, and they can tell when something's wrong, something's off. And like, my cat Henley is so sensitive. Like, the older she gets, the more sensitive she is. And I've had her now for, oh gosh, it'll be we'll have been together 6 years on July 19th of this year, which is a long time to be together. And, you know, I know that for her, I'm like her whole world because she's my baby. And I have work, I have school, I have life, but I try to make her, you know, as big a part of my life as I possibly can. But I know that she doesn't have work, she doesn't have school. So for her, it's just her obnoxious brother Hank, and then, like, me and my roommate and my friends that come over. So she knows when something's wrong with mom. She knows when mom is depressed, when mom is anxious, because she picks up on my tics. She can tell, like, if I'm in bed all day because I'm depressed, my baby will come and she'll just lay with me all day. She'll purr and she'll cuddle up right next to me. And some people will say my cat does that for me all the time. And that's great. I'm happy your cat does that. I am so lucky to have a cat that's so in tune with me that she just knows when I'm having a bad day. And she just comes and snuggles up with me. And it's like she just makes my day so much better. And when I'm anxious, I kind of feel bad because she, I feel like, has anxiety as well. So my cat, we kind of will be anxious together, but she'll normally just sit by me, and sometimes her tail gets really poofy, but she'll sit by me and we'll, like, get through it together. She'll snuggle me, she'll give me her big eyes and look at me, and like, I'm always amazed that she's with me. It's like she knows I'm not okay, even if I won't admit I'm not okay sometimes, and she's okay with it. It's just unconditional love, which is amazing. You can't really rely on people for that, let's be real. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, dogs are more lovable, cats are more lovable. Okay, I love all animals, and here's why I have a problem with people who don't like cats. Okay, I'm gonna give my spiel real quick. I think the reason why people don't like cats and complain about them and hate them, oh yes, my cat shows me her butt all the time. I'm very familiar with her asshole. Same with Hank. I think the reason why people don't like cats is because cats, they love unconditionally, but they're very, like, picky about who they love. Not everybody's their friend. They love you when they choose to love you. They, like, dogs, I feel like they love everybody, and in that sense it's almost not special, if that makes sense. But when a cat chooses you and they choose to give you attention and time and cuddles, it's like, wow, they chose me. And they don't choose everybody. So I feel like people that don't like cats are just telling on themselves, like, hey, I have control issues, and if you don't love me when I want to be loved, like, I have problems with that. So anyway, that's just, like, my own little spiel. I could be totally wrong, but I've just noticed that people who are like, I don't like cats, generally turn out to kind of be a little more controlling. And then there's people that are like, I like dogs better, and I'm like, hey, you do you. But if you hate cats, I probably am not gonna like you. Whatever. And yes, I've also heard that cats purring is actually, like, healing because of vibration frequency, something about bones, and I've read that somewhere. I don't know how legitimate it is, but I'm not gonna lie, and, you know, like, her purring calms me down. And also, I'm not saying cats hating you, I'm saying if you hate cats, we probably get a problem. But anyway, I just think animals can pick up on something that we can't as humans. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think in that way they're more qualified to be emotional support animals. I don't want an emotional support human. Can you imagine an emotional support human? Like, just think about this. You have a bad day, you have an anxiety attack, your emotional support human, is fucking in the closet because they're having a bad day and they don't have time for you. Ah! Like, or your emotional support person is passive aggressive and stomp off, or I don't know, they keep you up all night because they want to talk, or they're an extrovert and you're an introvert. It just an emotional support person just sounds so fucking stressful. Anyway, I just don't like people. But emotional support animals do different things for different people, and I completely went on a tangent there. So Henley is really good at comforting me. Hank is my playful butthead. I love him so much. My two cats are very good at providing support in completely different ways. Hank, again, not trained, rescued off the street at like 6 weeks old. I like bottle fed him the whole 9 yards. He was super cuddly and purry as a baby. Now he's super playful, and if you pet him too much, he'll scratch you. His tail is always wagging. He reminds me of like a little puppy, because his tail is just always wagging, and he's adorable. And he just makes me laugh. Like, I can't not laugh at his shenanigans. He will just be staring at me, and he is not as in tune as Henley is, but he is just so fucking cute. Like, I can't handle how cute he is. My cat Hank, even if I have a bad day, and he just comes over and looks at me like, hey mom, what's up? I want to drink from the shower in the sink. I know I have a perfectly good running fountain, but I like your shower water. He's a weirdo. He'll just flop on his back and look at me and just like kind of purr and then eat me. And it's amazing what pets can do for you. It really is. And I think there's problems, I think, in regards with how you register for emotional support animals, so we will talk about that. But I know for me, having them registered as emotional support animals, it makes me feel like, okay, my anxiety, my depression are legitimate. I'm not a broken person. I live with anxiety and depression. It fucking sucks. But I'm not broken. I just live with it, and it makes life a little bit harder. And I have my cats to make life easier. And I love that. And I love that the government recognizes that and validates that. And, you know, getting little things like my cats can travel with me if I want them to. I will never subject them to airplane travel because I think they would hate it. But if I wanted to, they can travel with me. And I know most pets can, but I know it would be easier for me to get my pets on the plane. And if I found an amazing place to live, I'm sorry, there's random plastic on my floor. I don't want Henley eating. But if I wanted to live in a place that doesn't allow pets but is perfect for me, I can take my cats with me. I don't have to sacrifice that. I don't have to find worse living conditions, and I get waived from the pet rent. I try to combine those words. I don't know what happened there. But I get waived from the pet rent, the pet fee, or the pet deposit, I think. I think I had to pay for one pet deposit, which was fair, not both. And I don't have to pay the pet fee. I just had to present my registration. And I think the fact that I can keep my cats with me wherever I go, and it's affordable, it makes my life easier. I don't have to go through the stress of trying to find a place that allows 2 pets. I don't have to worry about these additional fees because pet deposits can be really pricey. So on top of like a $500 deposit, it can be an additional like $700 on top of it. So it can basically add an extra $700-800 for me because I have 2. Or it can be like $400 and then $200 for the second cat. So pets can be very expensive, and most places will require pet rent, which I think is stupid. I'm like, they sleep all day. Like, why are they paying rent? Anyway, but the fact that little things like that I get is incredibly, it's just so nice that my life is made a little bit easier, so I can keep my cats with me who help lessen the burden of anxiety and depression in my daily life. And, you know, it's just, for that reason alone, like knowing there's other people out there who have emotional support animals, who get to, like, I can't imagine the anxiety I would experience not having the government support my emotional support animals and having them and allowing me to register and allowing me the small benefits I get of getting to live with them. The anxiety of having to go through that, jump through the loopholes and all this bullshit would just make my life so much harder. I'd probably sneak in my cats, which would up my anxiety, or find a shittier place to live, or pay way more than I can afford. And just, like, in this way, my anxiety is more manageable. It overall improves my quality of life. And I think in that sense, like, what an awesome thing to have for people. Even if you don't think it's a legitimate thing, even if it only helps one or two people, it's fucking worth it. So, little bit of the benefits, I guess. And I got to have Henley. I didn't have Hank at the time, but I had Henley when I was a junior in college in Seattle, and I got to have Henley with me at home or on campus, and I lived in a duplex, and I submitted my registry, and she got to live with me on campus, which was incredible with the stressors of college, and my housemates loved it too, so that worked out. So I feel like that was really scattered, but just a little bit of experience about emotional support animals, a little bit of the benefits. So I'm going to talk about registration really quick, and then touch on some of the stigma. I wonder if I can share my screen. Is there a way to do that? Oh, I'm still here. Oops. Okay. I should have done this before I started streaming. I meant to, and I didn't. Oh, dang it. I don't think you can see my screen. But, okay. I have the website pulled up, and I meant to change it so you can see my screen and see it with me, but you can't. But the website that I used is called usserviceanimals.org. You can Google it. They're right there. The phone number is 985-231-1542. So, you can apply for a letter from a licensed mental health professional for housing. You can register your service animal and register your emotional support animal. There's a lot of fraudulent websites, so be careful. This one I trust because I've been using them for years. So if anyone wants to, you can just Google it. They're really easy to find. I'm just going to click so I remember how to do it. I actually have to renew hers in just a second, like in a few months. But you just click emotional support animal, click here to register. The steps are very easy. They lay out the benefits of registration. They talk about the protection that you have. If you need the prescription letter for the emotional support animal, they will provide the letter for you. If you've previously registered, you can receive a $60 discount for the consultation, all this stuff. So, oh, I wonder if I have her stuff with, hold on, I think I have a picture of Henley's, like, very first registration on my phone. Let me see if I can find it and pull it up so you can see what it looks like in real life. This is probably, oh yeah, here it is. Here's her expired one. But this is what it looks like. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. Ahaha, National Service. But that's her very first certificate that I ever got. And what I did for that was I went on that website, I registered, I put in my information, and then you put in your animal's information. And I think you pay $80. You get the certificate of registration, you get the registered emotional, you get like the little card, you get the certificate. I got mine in email. They mail it to you in person as well. And then if you, most places, I mean, every place that I've lived at, I show them, like, this is her old certificate, but it has her name, It has her database ID in the National Service Registry. It has her registered as an emotional support animal. And it has me as her handler, is what they have me down as. And then it gives them information like, if you want to confirm, here's the website. It's the National Service Animal Registry database. Here's her ID, me, and then the Justice Department, and then they do specify an emotional service animal is not considered a working service animal and is not granted unlimited public access. That's huge. Emotional service animal does not mean you can just parade your dog or cat or whatever around. That's not how that works. I mean, you can bring them to travel, and under special circumstances, I think you can bring them certain places. I don't do that with my cats. I just have them with me at home, and that's enough for me. But it does say they don't have unlimited public access, but it does protect me from having them, like, I can bring them on airplanes. Property managers and landlords are required to make accommodations to permit me to keep my babies with me in accordance with the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988, and they reference all of the acts for the people. And what I had to do basically is, and also about the website, there is a team of doctors, lawyers, and licensed mental health supporters that basically work together on this website. So they have, like, the lawyers, they have a team of lawyers ready to protect you if a landowner or whoever tries to say this isn't legit. And they have the doctors who will do the consultations, who try to make it as easy as possible for you. Because I think, we'll get there with stigma. But, and then they've got a team of people for the certification, and then the lawyers will also, like, make sure legally you're covered. So that's why I trust this website. And so I've paid my $80, I've got my certificate, and I registered, and I was ready to, I was already seeing a counselor and everything, and my PCP, my doctor, had already, gotten my diagnoses and everything, and I was ready to turn all that in, and they basically will believe you and take your word that, hey, if you say you're suffering, I believe you, and I won't make you go through all the hoops, and we will protect you. Which I think has its pros and cons, and I think pros makes me feel validated. I don't have to constantly prove to the world that, hey, I am suffering. But cons, a lot of people can take advantage of this. A lot of people can exploit it. A lot of people can fake it. And I think that's absolute bullshit because it makes the rest of us look awful. I mean, it's already hard enough to ask for help, right? And, I mean, I remember feeling stupid saying my cats are my emotional support animals at first. I remember feeling so stupid. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, yeah, they're my emotional support animals. You can laugh about it if you want to, but Henley has literally, like, been the only reason why I didn't kill myself at one point in my life. Because she was there. And that was enough for me. Like, it's amazing the attachments that will happen between, like me and my cats. I totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, the organization sent me my certificate. I renewed it. I think it's like once a year, maybe once every 2 years. I gotta remember. They email me, so I don't keep track. They email me, you just register it to your county, and so registering is surprisingly easy, and it looks like it still is based on the website, which is fantastic. And I've never had a problem, knock on wood, but every place I've ever lived at with my old college, I've lived at 1, 2, 3, 4 apartments, so like 5 places total with my cats, including a college and 4 apartment complexes, who I present them the certificate, they waive the pet fees, or they give it, or I pay it before I give them the certificate. I give them the certificate because I hadn't renewed it, and then they refund me the pet fee or the pet deposit, and then I'm waived from the pet fee and stuff, which is really nice. And you just have to send them the updated certificate, which is great. And it's made really simple, which is something that I'm so appreciative of. So a lot of the stigma around this, I think I touched on it, but because it's so easy, a lot of people can exploit it. And because a lot of people can exploit it, it's really easy to just say, well, anyone can buy it online, it's not real. And you know what? You might be right. For a lot of people, it might not be real. They just want to save money. They just want to be able to travel with their pet and jump through less hoops because of the airlines. They don't want to pay their pet fees. They don't want to pay the pet rent. And I think it's really fucked up for people to take advantage of stuff like that. It's really fucked up. And it makes it harder for everybody else. And I'm really grateful that these programs exist for people like me whose lives actually are made better with their emotional support animals. And I'm glad I can say that without feeling any shame. Like, yeah, I have emotional support animals, and I don't have a problem with that because they make my life so much easier. But yeah, there's a lot of stigma of, well, they're just pets. And to a degree, you're right. They are just pets. But I think the bond that I formed with them is very different than just a pet, if that makes sense. Like, your pets, I'm sure, will be there for you on a bad day. But if you don't suffer from depression or anxiety or, other mental illnesses, you might have a bad day once in a while and your pet is there for you, and that's great. But when you have depression or anxiety, like me, my baseline is like here and you're here. So when you have a bad day, you might do this and you're back at baseline. My baseline's already down here because of the depression, anxiety I live with. And with meds, counseling, and my pets, I might be able to be at the same baseline as you and function at the same level as you. So my cats, they're a lot more of a support system for me than I think for most people, if that makes sense. And it doesn't mean that your pets are less important to you than mine are to me. We just have a different kind of bond. And I think my cats and we interact very differently because they're used to me, going into depressive episodes or experiencing anxiety. And my cat Henley has been with me for almost 6 years. She's watched me get sober. She was with me for nearly a year before I got sober. So she was with me when I was a drunk mess, when I was a suicidal mess, and then with me as I got sober. So she's been through the worst of my depression, the worst of my anxiety, and she's also been with me through the best of my life, and she's been with me through the continuing depression or the depressive episodes, the continuing anxiety attacks, because sobriety doesn't just cure you of everything. So in that way, our connection is very different. And it's not worse, it's not better than anybody, it just is different. And that's that. And I remember for the first time admitting out loud that my cat Henley was an emotional support animal, and that's before I got Hank, who is snoring like a motherfucker right now. I remember the first time I said that, and I remember just thinking about some of the things I had heard, like, oh, you're just doing it to save money, you're just da 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 da. And in my mind, I'm like, saving the money is nice, but like, I couldn't care less. I'll pay the $30 a month, for pet rent or whatever. Like, they're worth it to me. But the fact that I feel like I'm supported in this way by the government is really nice. And I think it's important that we do what we can to support people with mental illness and depression, anxiety, OCD, everything under the sun. And I think it's important that we recognize invisible disabilities as legitimate disabilities, because there are days where I feel like I cannot function. And I feel just as hindered as someone with a broken ankle. because it feels just as painful for me to fucking walk to the kitchen. Completely different, yet the same in a way, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's a bit about emotional. Oh, I feel like I should introduce my cats. Let's see if I can ignore my super messy room and all my meds in the corner. Ugh. Ugh. Oh God, there's Hank. Hank, say hi. Say hi. Oh, he's snoring. Okay, he's gone. Henley is back there. That's my baby girl. Where's my hand? There she is. Henley. Hi, baby. She is so sleepy. So Hank was snoring, and Henley's just asleep. Hank, the door's open, baby. You can just go. Okay, well, if you're gonna close the door, don't cry when you can't get out. Like, oh, my goobers. My goobers. So those are my goobers. Hank is my little blondie. And Henley's my little gray. I'm pretty sure Hank has asthma and that's why he snores. But he's a little cutie. So yeah, my cats, they make my life so much better. Oh, actually, I had studies. Please hold. Oh, here we go. Nope, I did not. Hank, you don't get to cry when you're stuck in here with me. You close that. You silly. Okay. I want to make sure I touched on all the points I want to talk about. Okay. Oh, other examples of service dogs I noted was like military dogs and then the TSA dogs, like at the airports, the ones I always want to touch, but I can't because they sniff my back for bombs and not my butt because they want to be my friend. Hi, Hank, you want to come say hi? You want to come say hi? Is my hand cold? Yeah, no, you're just gonna sniff everything. Okay, you tease. Okay. Oh, what I wanted to touch on, I want to talk about the science behind it because I'm a scientist and I like that shit. So there's not a lot of science to back up untrained emotional support animals providing significant benefits to people. However, owning a pet overall is more beneficial for an individual. And I think there's a lot to be said for the anecdotal stories that have come in from people with emotional support animals. I mean, obviously I can't base it all on my experience, but I bet if I were to, find other people with emotional support animals and ask them, or just people with pets in general, like, can you tell me what your life was like before and after? I bet their quality of life is just a little bit better after having a pet. And there is science to back up like life with a pet and life without a pet, and how having a pet does improve your health even a little bit. So there is science for that, not emotional support animals specifically. But actually, something that's really interesting is that dog owners are typically more heart healthy than people who don't own dogs, because a dog drags you outside to go for walks, and those people, just by being active for 10-15 minutes a day walking their dogs, you're keeping yourself in better health, according to the cardiologist I work with. He tells people, get a dog if you don't want to exercise, which I love. Okay, but the National Library of Medicine, on the website, it's National Institute of Health, which is where I really like to go for a lot of my my science articles. They're legitimate. They pull resources from all kinds of medical journals. And it's just all on this National Institute of Health, and it's summarized very nicely, and the articles I feel like are very easy to find. The studies I feel like are summarized very nicely, easy to understand, easy to read. But I've also been reading studies for like 4 years and doing research papers and shit as part of being a psych major, so maybe I don't know, maybe I read them differently, but I really like this website and I like how they write things. But there was a study completed, found on that website, 2017, It was of a population of about 42,000 in California. They looked at people, pet owners, and they were basically they were looking at like the likelihood of someone having a pet, and then they ended up finding this incidental finding is what they call it, is when you find something you're not looking for. And they found that pet owners tend to see the doctors half as often as they did before, and they did recognize, which I agree with, there is a socioeconomic factor as well that plays into that. There's geographical, there's all these different factors that play into it. But there have been multiple studies that have repeatedly said, hey, people with pet owners or people with pets tend to be a little bit healthy and tend to be at the doctors a little bit less, at least a little bit less than people who don't own pets. So, and they do, increase happiness, satisfaction with life, less visits to the doctor, even marginally. And you know what? If science backs it up, even a little bit like that, I'm like, fuck, I'll take it. And I know it's not for emotional support animals specifically, but I've never met someone that said my life was worse when I got a pet. I've never met someone like that. And if they feel like anyone that's ever, like, their life is made worse with a pet, like, you're probably a maniac. I don't know. Like, I can't imagine a pet making your life worse unless you adopt, like, a snake. Those are creepy. But that's just my opinion. But pets tend to give you a sense of purpose. People tend to report increased sense of purpose because you're feeding them, you're keeping them alive. So generally, having a pet, you are a little bit happier, a little bit healthier than people who do not own pets. Even if that's just an incidental finding, I think it's a pretty important one. And again, I know it's not for emotional support animals specifically, but I'm gonna say that emotional support animal will most likely contribute to a lot of that increase in satisfaction. I can definitely say that my two babies, Hank is staring like he just discovered the secrets of life under my door. But like, they've definitely given my life purpose. You know, if I don't want to get out, if I don't want to leave my room, I get up because I feed them, or I clean their water bowl, or I order something for them, or their birthdays, I absolutely celebrate their birthdays. It's just extra days of the year to be extra happy. Clean their litter box so I feel like I accomplished something. And then they do silly things and make me laugh. I give them treats. They purr. Like, it's pretty amazing the relationship you can develop. So I love my pets, and I'm very grateful that I got them. A kid said, a human child? No, thank you. I think I will forever be happy with my fur babies. And again, if you have any questions about the service, my mouse turned off, there we go, about the emotional support animals, you can go to usserviceanimals.org. Their phone number, again, is 985-231-1542. There's multiple websites, but that's the one I've used for years. They check out. They're legitimate. I don't know about the other websites. That's the only one I can vouch for. They do have a Spanish option. So, yeah, I don't really have any... I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about, or everything that I had made notes to touch on. I should have started doing more research in advance, because I feel like there's so much that can be talked about. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of history that can be covered there. But hi, baby. I love that they're just, like, in this episode a lot more than usual. Like, they're just staring at me. But yeah, I'm glad I could talk about it and just at least provide insight into my experience with them. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not licensed to talk about this. It's just my experience and a bit of research that I can do on my own on the internet, and hopefully the sources I provide are a little bit helpful. But yeah, if there's any other questions, I mean, I can try to point you in the right direction. If you're considering registering your animal because you legitimately struggle with a mental illness of any kind, I highly encourage you to do it. I think it's worth it. And if anybody gives you shit, I will fuck them up for you and throw hands, because that's fucked up. So that's my stream for the week, and I'll be back next Wednesday at 6 o'clock Pacific time. They're just both staring. Yeah, I'm talking about you. What of it? Yeah, I know, it's dinner time. They rule my life, and I love being a cat mom more than anything in the world. So, can you hand one some? Can you throw hand? Yes, I can throw hands for you. Always. But yeah, thanks for listening. Hit follow if you want, or don't. I won't be offended. Yes, I can beat up anybody for anyone. I am always down. Gets my cardio in and whatnot. But, yeah. I'm gonna go watch TV now and go to bed early because I'm fucking 84 years old and I'm tired. So, thanks for tuning in. I will see you next week about... I don't fucking know. We'll find out together. Bye.